Well, I saw Magnus, he just looked on to the crowd, I think, looking for that inspiration. We'll find out with first move. It's go time. It's the queen's pawn opening. No one e4.
Or c4. Okay. What is Magnus going to go for? It is the Nimzo Indian defense. Black's bishop comes out for an early pin. And, okay, I like this choice from Jan. He gives Black a lot of options. The downside being Indian since he was a kid, since these two first met all those years ago. And it is Jan, actually, to start thinking early on.
Actually, I was going to ask you at the start of the show, David, we had that photograph on, right, from the World Under 12 when these two played. I think it was the second time ever that they faced each other in that tournament. Looking back at that time, by the way, we do have it, Taraj, we'll get into the position. But are there certain characteristics that you remember from back then, which you see them employ even now?
Yes, they're both even stronger now, of course. But the first time I met Jan was back in, I think, 2000, and he was so quick, so confident with his moves. That is still the same to this very day. And yeah,
he played fast.
He played fast. He played very dynamic chess, and he's never changed his colours there. And that's why he's so good. He's plays true to his strengths, true to his style, and he's just worked on that and kind of perfecting what he knows he's good at. Magnus, meanwhile, was always good at the endgames. When I played him back in 2002, nearly ground me down in like an 80-move endgame.
Even as an 11-year-old.
Even as an 11-year-old. And now, 22 years later, still grinding away opponents, as we saw in game 1 of today's match. In the meantime, this Nimzo Indian is a bit of a weird pawn structure. Both sides have intruder pawns, as I call them, on each other's side. Black capturing a pawn on c4, white capturing a pawn on c5. So these pawns should fall off the board in the near future, you would think. But how do you pick them up? That is question number 1. If white gets one more move, might play queen a4 check. And okay, that check has been blocked. I was going to say the queen could well try and grab this pawn. The alternative for white is to move this knight out the way. Again, not sure where. You have a choice of squares. And the white bishop might be tasked with the job to grab on c4. Meanwhile, the black knight is doing the hunting of the white pawn. If it disappear, though, it's going to be totally symmetrical, the pawn structure. And in terms of winning chances, you don't want symmetry. That's the last thing you want. So Jan pondering if there's any alternatives right now. If there's any way to try to mix things up, muddy the waters, imbalance everything.
Question is where, he's trying to figure out, which I'm doing the same as well, is the knight better on d4 or f4? And really, it's just about your setup after.
gets in front of it, and now the whole idea is, does white have enough time to get the king to the other side of the board? Is this closer to a draw or a Yan win, David?
Well, I studied this exact endgame without the e-pawns on the board, when it's 3 versus 3 on the same side, and that is a draw, and quite, well, I would say quite a relatively straightforward one at the top level, but with extra pawns on the board, it normally helps the side with the extra material. That is Jan Nepomniachtchi right now. It will be a race. The white king will start to run sooner or later, but first he's pushing his pawn as far down the board as possible.
But if you push it one more step ahead, then it's just a draw. Theoretically improving, because your aim is to get that king to that a7 square in front of the pawn. You need that shelter for it to survive. So Jan, he pauses now. How does he improve the position of his king? That's the big question. Meanwhile, time trouble also approaching.
Maybe king g2 and you run all the way around. King g2, king g1, all the way to b1, run the king up. That's the general thing, but you have to be careful of hanging the f pawn, so he's trying to figure all that out. And king f3 might be answered with an f5 to try to restrict the king. So king g2, and then maybe get the king to f1, maybe e1, play f3.
Whoa.
Oh wow, yeah, that was not
Surprise you, David?
definitely surprising.
Very surprising. The white rook is totally frozen now. That being said, the black rook is also frozen, can never move off the A line. It can only kind of step forward and back now, can never go across to grab any white pawns.
Whoa.
Okay, the eval bar approves of Jan's decision, but he should stop trading now. He needs to fix the structure on the king side.
H5 or something.
Keep as many pawns on as possible.
I'm so surprised, because usually, traditionally in these endgames, you just don't push. He knows what he's doing. We saw the bar say that this is the best move in the position. He doesn't trade. He says, Magnus, you take on h4, I destroy your pawn formation. That pawn is a line duck for my king to pick up anyway. And Magnus just playing the waiting game now.
Yeah, it's so hard to make progress with white. It's just so hard, because like you're always going to get the Philidor position checks basically on A1, B1, C1, wherever you run the king, when you go up to B6 or B7 or C7, anywhere up there. So how do you make progress exactly is the question. Maybe it goes, yeah.
That last move by Yan, right? It made a weakness of the e3 pawn. Doesn't allow the white king to actually come for the h4 pawn. And now how do you improve this? Your king is tied down to defending that h pawn that Magnus has.
That's a good move. E5 was sick, boy. That was nice.
Now the black rook giving a check. It's simply going to come back on the next move. Actually, he's going to continue checking the white king. The white king is never going to step across. This is bizarre what Jan has done, to be honest. He should have just pushed his pawn to h5, what he could have done. Now this black h pawn is a real thorn, tying down the white king. White rook cannot move. This game is going to end.
Yes, here it is.
It's a draw.
A missed opportunity by Yan. You know, he was the one pushing with the white pieces, had that extra pawn. But in this endgame, technique, some inaccuracies there, and Magnus Carlsen showing incredible defense, sacrificing his pawn on e5.